Ahoy there, mateys, and welcome back to another video here in Windrose. Today I've built this blacksmith for my pirate town, and before we dive into how to build this, if you want to follow along yourselves and build one in your own base, I'm going to do a little tour of the place so you can get a better grasp of the whole building, the size, and all the space you would have on the inside. But as always, if you like seeing these Windrose build videos and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave your comment down below with a future build you'd like to see me do. You need quite a few building sets for this. The clay set, I think, for the roof. We have some of the Spanish set in there, as well as the old world building set for some of the wood textures. But I do quite like the new side of the town now because of the added height of this building. It just adds a whole new perspective. So right over here we are with the front of the building. Now obviously it's quite close quarters here because of me actually building a town. So we have now a little street starting to form here. But if we take a little step back over here, so we go down the pier a little bit, we will get a better glimpse of the building, and you can see that this height definitely helps making this feel more like a proper town already. Now, I had a vague idea of what I wanted to build when I started this base, and the main thing I wanted to do was having these arches right here at the front, just because I think it looks quite cool, adds a lot of character to the place, but it also just allows for a little bit of a walkway. And then we have this workplace out here. Oh, this NPC's just started tinkering around, which is perfect for this little showcase. So yeah, I wanted to make an outdoor workplace because, well, if you don't know, these forges, both the kiln and the furnace, need to be outside actually to function. So we needed a little workspace here where they could function like that. And then I added this anvil here, which is actually really cool with the NPCs roaming around the village because they will interact with stuff randomly. Then we also have a little bit of a workshop in here for the crafting stations. Right now I don't have a lot of decor yet because I'm kind of waiting with full decorations until I've unlocked a few extra building sets. But I'll show you what I do with the place in a later video. But this place has a lot to offer besides that little workplace. We have some really nice details here with all the different layers of the building, as you can see. There's a little side building as well, and I tried to add a bunch of little details all around the walls to add a lot of depth and interest to all the different sides. This definitely is my favorite angle of the build with these different layers in here, but the whole build is, I mean, in my opinion, pretty cool. I also added this pathway by just placing down stones without snapping. I'm quite happy with the way that looks. But yeah, if we go up this hill, we can get a bit of a better view of the building from this side because there's no buildings here yet. And you can see it's a different version of the same style as the warehouse. The warehouse has very shallow roofs, whereas this one, of course, has these steeper roofs, making it feel more like a proper town building, in my opinion. But I am very happy with the way that this turned out. I had some, of course, playing around with the style to get the right feeling, but in the end I think this has come together quite nicely indeed. So as you can see, because of the steep roofs and everything, it is quite a tall building. So even if you're not building a town and just want a nice base, this should serve you pretty well. It will offer you plenty of space to utilize for most of the things that you'll need. So here on the inside we got a nice big entrance to the storage part. This is where I would have all of the storage for the blacksmith, and then also with access to that little workshop off to the side where you can also enter the workplace that is next to it. So that is like the basic shape, and you got these big doors on both sides, but of course this one is the really fancy entrance that you probably want to use. Then we got a staircase that we can take. We have one room off to the side here, which is above the little side building, which is just a small room you can maybe turn into like a kitchen or something like that. And then we of course have the next layer of our building with some decent views and decent space around here. Some nice windows on different layers. And again, yeah, you can definitely get some nice interior going here. I'm just waiting for a few more unlocks before I go full crazy on my decorating. And then at the very top, the attic, we actually have a very big window, so you can enjoy some really cool views like I have here of my little pier and the docks and the ships out there. But yeah, we also have a window over to this side. I like adding a lot of windows so you can enjoy the views. And you can even see a glimpse of the workplace from here. But yeah, most importantly, you have more space on the attic, so you could, I don't know, more storage, more crafting, whatever you want. And then over here we have even more space for a cozy little bedroom off to the side of the building. So yeah, all in all, a pretty decently sized build. Quite a lot of space available, and in my opinion, it does look quite cool. I'm very happy again with the way it came together. This is kind of the base style that I want to go for a lot of the town buildings, and of course adding some variety in there for a bunch of the different builds. But in general, this makes for a really cool building here, some proper town vibes, and a very nice workplace. And I do have plans for a few more things like this. I think we have now a blacksmith. We probably want to have like a workshop just for, you know, general crafting. And then there's quite a few different options that we could still add. A tailor would be a really good one. Apothecary, another one that we could do. So there's definitely a few options to consider for this base. But yeah, quite happy with the first little glimpse in this style, and I hope you guys like it as well. So I've got a vague idea or concept for this. I think I'm gonna make this 4 wide as a building, and then I want to have a specific entrance to this build. So I think the entrance is going to be too wide, and you'll see in a moment what exactly I mean with this entrance. But I think this 2x4 should probably do the trick. And then for the actual like main part of the building, well, it's going to have to look like a bit of like a storage building where the blacksmith would be able to keep a lot of things. So I think if I pull it back this far, so that's about 7 extra ones. I think that's probably big enough, and then we can just, of course, fill the entire thing in with the foundations like this. I think that works. I think that's big enough for what I am planning. So first of all, I think we'll make the main walls and main entrances, and then we'll do the special bit in the front. So we're going to use these large walls as the corner pieces. We're going to fill in these sides of the building at the same time. I think we're going to have 2 here on the corners, so we can get the full nice pattern going. And we'll just keep repeating that same process for the other sides for now. Kind of matches the style that I did for my dock warehouse building, which is nice because I kind of want to blend, of course, the buildings in a little bit so that there's a cohesive style throughout my little pirate town. Yeah, I think that looks quite nice. And we've got these big new doors that I unlocked. I'm not quite sure what set they were from, but they are quite nice, and they do allow you to basically just snap them right there in the middle, and they feel like a proper like storage warehousey kind of feeling, which is the bottom basement part of this build. I think I want to use like that, maybe. I don't know. We'll see as we start decorating. I do think we need another layer because these doors are quite tall, kind of stick out a little bit. So I'm going to use these walls above it just for a different look. And they've got a bit of wood on the inside, which I think might be a nice touch there, just to change things up a little bit. And then we're getting the basic shape here for the main part of the building in place pretty well, I'd say. I'm quite happy with the way this looks. Then here in the front, I want to use these pillars. So this is part of the Spanish set, I think it's called. I think you get these from the people of Tortuga. We're going to raise up these pillars a bit. This is going to be a little bit of trial and error to try and get this right. But basically, I want to have some arches in front of the entrance. because I think that would look quite cool. You can walk underneath it, and we can walk into the little workplace that we're going to have right around the corner, because, well, if you don't know, the furnace and stuff, they need to be outside. They can't be under the roof, so we can't have them inside of the building. We need a little workplace right in the corner that we're creating. Let's scrap this, what I have for now. So these pillars are now 3 high. I think that is probably big enough. And what I want to do here, I want to have these kind of bricks, I think. The quarter, like the small wall at the top. And I think it's they go into arches from there. That should look quite nice. And yeah, I think that is going to work. When we do need to make the pillars, well, we do need to make them smaller, but we need to have the top right here, which will blend in nicely to the arches that we're creating. So now if we have these arches like that, we can rotate them and get them back in. The smoke is a bit in the way. Then we can just add that little small wall on top of there, and then we should have some pretty nice looking decent arches here in the front. Probably want to fortify that corner a little bit with a pillar just like this, and then the same thing over here on the opposite side. I think that works. I think that makes for quite a nice little entrance, and just, you know, different shapes in the build, which I quite fond of. So then for these windows, I think we're going to keep it relatively simple. So we're just going to basically create some shapes where we can place the windows in. We're going to do the same thing for both sides, of course. So let's see which windows do I want to open ones. Not quite like this one with the texture, I think. Yeah, let's just go for these. These are still my favorite window set. And we can have some on the other side. I think the double window feels like a nicely balanced version. I guess I could have also just done big walls there, but, you know, doesn't matter. We'll fill it in like this. We might still break open this wall later on one side to have a little addition, but for now, I think that is a pretty nice start. Okay, so we got a little start here, and I think, yeah, I'm going to break up the side here to build like a little extension of the side where we can have a little bit of the inside workshop, like the weapons bench and stuff like that we could have on the inside, and then have a full building next to it. So we're gonna add 4 foundations here, 3 wide is what we're gonna do here. So just a small addition, nothing too big, nothing too fancy, but I think that's just gonna help add a little bit more shape, and it's gonna create this corner that we can then use for a workshop. So I think we're gonna use these nice limestone walls, because they have like the brick texture in them, which is quite nice, I think. And then where do I want an entrance? I think a door over here would be nice. So I think you can create some different snap points, because the doors, if you know the double doors, they aren't actually lining up with the structures in a normal way, but I think we can force that with these roof pieces. There we go. Now it is centered in this spot. We just need to fix up the wall and make sure that that fits in with the rest of the building again. So that top bit is of course going to be quite easy, but then for the sides we might have to create the snap points again just to place the walls back in there. But I'm pretty sure we should be able to get this all in, and the game has of course clipping, so you can just clip walls into each other quite easily as long as you're able to place them. It won't allow me to place them now, which is not great. I don't want to place it down there. Maybe if I remove these walls first, yes, then I can place the walls in the right position maybe first. And then maybe just kind of create this shape first. Let's, yeah, see, because those we can overlap. So now at least we have the door nicely framed inside of this wall, and then I think we're probably able to, yeah, there we go. We can get those walls back in the right spot. Let's use the right variant. We want to have the limestone one. There we go. yeah, that should look quite nice with our nice double door to enter that part of the workshop. And then on the other side, I think we're just gonna add in a nice window in the middle so that we, you know, can still open up a window, have some fresh air, etc. I think that's gonna be nice to have. And then on this end, I think we're gonna do something similar. But let's reinforce it a little bit because, well, we want to have a little bit of the wooden textures in there, I think. Add a pop of color. Is there a gap in here? There shouldn't be a gap. Did I place these wrong? I think I might have snapped to the wrong part because there definitely should not be a gap between these walls. So let's try that again. There we go. I was confused why I would need a pillar there, but that makes a lot more sense this way. So yeah, then we can basically just finish this wall for this small side building. And we'll add in another window. Why not? You know, make sure there's plenty of light coming in to the workshop. If you're working hard, you want a nice bit of fresh air in here from time to time, I think. And I think that is a pretty nice start for this side part. Okay, so we're gonna build this up first, I think, to get a bit of a idea of what the building is gonna feel and look like before we do like the bigger main building. So if we can continue these. Oh, that didn't go the way I wanted to at all. Sometimes this build camera angle can be a little bit confusing and a little bit difficult to work with, but if we get on top of here, that should be a lot easier. Oh, that's gonna extend over to the other side. I don't think I want that because we can fill that in with smaller pieces anyway. That might be easier to do, so let's do that all the way over to the other side, and then we can just fill in the rest of this with these floor pieces. There we go. I think we just want to fill in this entire bit, and that gives us the next layer to work with. I probably want to add some supports underneath as well, just to make it look a little bit nicer, maybe on these corners. There we go. I quite like that they stick out a little bit, just for a little bit of extra texture. Can you please? There we go. Give me the right snap point. Not sure what else I want. Maybe first let's add in some beams around the edges here to make it feel more sturdy. And I really like the little look of these beams anyway, so I think they're always quite nice to utilize. But I think if we add this border, it just feels a little bit stronger, like a proper structure. And then if we get on top, we can start working on the next layer of this building. I think if we add up some walls here, we can probably... Do we want to go 4 high? Yeah, I think 4 high makes a little bit more sense. And then we kind of have to shape up this next layer. I think we're going to do something similar as I did on the warehouse, because I quite like the look of that with the limestone and the beams. We can create some really cool custom shapes, custom walls, which are definitely quite nice. So let's get those in for now. We can have another beam coming up, or pillar coming up here, just like that. And then we can just fill in these quarters or these smaller gaps with these smaller walls. There we go. That's a pretty decent start, I'd say. And then here at the end, of course, we can also fill in those corner walls for now. And then we can start really shaping up the building. So we'll bring down those diagonal pillars to just create those patterns. And I think that should already give us a quite nice layer for this building. Again, I really love the look of these pillars and beams. I think they are great, and especially like this with clipping into the walls, it can create some really nice looking structures. So yeah, if we just build all of these up, all of these different angles, we should get pretty close. Do I want to have these beams? If I do that, I can't really have any windows. So the question, I guess, is, do we want to have windows here off to the sides? And I probably do want that, because otherwise the building is going to look a little bit boring. So I think we're just going to add windows to all of these sides. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. It adds the biggest amount of interest, I think, to the whole build if we do that. So let's add those in all the way around. These are still my favorite windows. I'm just going to keep using these. And then I can add beams across the top, I think. And then at the front for now as well, I think we can just do that. And that kind of finishes off this layer in quite a nice way. Let's see. I've kind of locked myself in here. What way would we want to get up here? I think the staircase we would probably connect up here. That's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. And then I guess we could add in some supports under these pillars that we have. It's not kind of aligned with the bottom part, but I think that makes the most sense. Since this building came forward a little bit, I think that will look the nicest. And then we can add some decorations around the windows. I like adding these things because they just add so much more character to the place. Adding these little hanging things everywhere. And we should be able to add them in, and probably can add the beam back as well. There we go. I think that looks quite nice. Just again, adding layers is it's always a nice thing, I think. So we're gonna have one there too. And we're gonna see if we can have one on this side. We can have the little roof on top of these. I think that's gonna be quite nice as well. There we go. We can even have something underneath at the same time. Ooh, this is a bit of precision is needed to get this in there. There we go. Because yeah, again, the hanging things I think just add a lot of character life to the place. Just to make these walls a bit less flat in general. Okay, so up here I want to take out my floors again, and I think I might actually want to extend this layer a little bit more on the front for the final layer of this part of the building, and that's then gonna give us the main style for this build. There we go. I think we can actually do this smarter. If we do the beams first, I think we can just use the big floors. There we go, all the way across. And then we can have some supports here on the front to make sure that the whole build looks nice. I think that works. And then we should be able to have some nice floors in here. There we go. Off to the sides. And I need some wood. Here on the inside though, we can add this doorway into that side building. And then probably just fill in the rest of these walls. Just like so. So that you can easily access the little workplace from here. I think that is quite nice. And then the staircase to the next layer can probably start somewhere here too. So if we have this going up, that would also connect to the side room, which would be quite convenient. And we should be able to get that one in there. So yeah, this connects up with each other. And then the staircase can probably just continue. There we go. I think that works. And then we can finish the final layer for this side building, which means we can finish the floor just like so. And then of course we can shape up the roof of the building, basically the final bit here. So we're going to use these steep pieces because I think that would be really nice. We haven't really done any builds yet with those steep pieces, and I think they will look quite cool. What do we want to do with the walls here? Do I want to use quarters first? What does that make sense? This might not make a whole lot of sense. There we go. Think, yeah, if we do it like this, we have a window shape in there, so we can add a window and we can shape up the rest of the walls. And we just have to have the steep pieces, and that would be the shape of our building. I think that's gonna look really nice. And then of course we can add in another window here. There we go. I think that works. Getting a lot of different textures in this build with all these different layers, all the different stones, limestone, now the wood top layer. I think that works. We could have one of these windows at some point in the building. I quite like the look of that, but I don't think it would fit within a wooden wall very nicely. So we're gonna keep that for now. Gonna add this little roof on the top though. And I think, yeah, I think that means we can probably start building the actual roof, like start filling it in. Gonna use the reeds because they've got these nice steep pieces. And I think if we just build this across, I don't think we're going to do anything crazy for this part of the roof, because this is just a little side building anyway. It's going to have to tie into the main building at some point. So I think for now, I probably don't want to build any like addition or a little side window, etc. I think I just want to fill it in like this. And then I've got this going across, and we can just kind of fill in the other side as well. I think don't think we need anything like more special over here, because this is already kind of just a little addition to the main building. We don't want that up there, but it's definitely looking quite cool. There we go. Let's extend this a little bit so I can reach the other side. And then we can reach up. Okay, at the top, I think I want to have this beam going across. I think that would look really nice. Just to make it a bit more reinforced, and maybe we can extend that a little bit. With the support beam maybe going back into the building. There we go. That might look nice. Yeah, I think that shapes up the building. And then here at the end, I'm just going to have a few of these little logs poking out. Yeah, just to... I mean, I just want to make sure we give it our all. And I think this building is already well on its way to be my new favorite. I've been wanting to build this steeper roof style for a while, and it's finally time. And I think it's looking quite nice, this little bit here. Alright, the workplace is going to be extended from here. So basically, I just want to make like a little square next to the building where we can do all of the smelting and stuff of everything that we need. And I think that courtyard is probably going to be big enough like that. In my case, I just need to connect that up to the piers that I have. There we go. And then for the main building, I guess it's time to start working on the next layer too. So we're gonna, of course, start by filling in some floors. I think we can just keep it within the walls for now, but we are definitely gonna add a little edge around the building. but we'll just start by filling this all in. There we go. And yeah, that's a good start. But we'll add a little ledge around the outside, like just like we did with the small building. We're doing it on a slightly bigger scale. I mean, to be fair, we also did it on the warehouse before. I think it just adds a little bit more depth, having the next layer stick out by one. I think that means that we're actually going to cut into this building a little bit. We'll have to see how we can actually connect them up, of course, but yeah, I think we're gonna have to cut into the existing build just a little bit to connect up the two sides. And I think for this place, I mean, it's basically going to be similar to what we've just done for the small building, just on a much bigger scale. So let's add in those pillars 4 high on each of the corners, just to kind of start shaping up this place. And then I also want to have these beams going around the outside, of course, to support and reinforce this build a little bit. And we can have that on all sides, of course. And we can also have the beams on the front and the back of the building, just to make sure that we can tie it all together with each other. And then we're gonna start adding a bit of structures and shapes to this layer, getting some of these pillars in. There we go. Just building out these corners for the building, because we already know what they are gonna look like, and that should get us started. So we'll add in these diagonal beams. Again, this process, I mean, we've just done that for the smaller part, but I still think this is one of the best looking walls. We need more wood again. There we go. Have a bit more to build with. We can add in more supportive beams to create these nice shapes for our building before we start filling it all in. There we go. Just around those corners, and I guess that means that we're probably around the phase where we're going to decide where all the windows and walls, etc., are going to go. Trying to fill in this next layer, so let's just start by adding all limestone walls, making sure that we get this build looking nice. Just like this to get started. Nice and easy. And I think some of these places are going to be quite straightforward. Do we want to have like one window, two windows? I think two windows might be nice. I don't know. Could be both, honestly. Maybe two windows would break it up a bit more. I don't know. Let's try it and see what it looks like. We can try both sides a different thing and see what we like the best. But yeah, if we add this in, we should get a decent structure there. We can build the top layer as well, and then add in the actual windows themselves, which should look quite nice. I think we're still gonna just go for these ones, my favorite still. I think that blends in pretty well with the beams, etc. And then I guess on the other side we could try the other version, so having one window in the center, and maybe even a different window. But yeah, we can definitely get these in like so. And then if we add in the window, maybe we can add in one of these. I don't know which side is supposed to be what, but I think that works. I actually quite like the look of that. And then we could even have some more supportive beams going back up, kind of framing that window in quite a nice way, to be honest. I'm quite happy with that. This part of the wall I think is going to be relatively easy. We can definitely have another window there. And then this side, well, there's not really a lot of room, so we can just kind of have that diagonal coming up, I think. And that means we can also raise up that pillar, get rid of this layer a little bit. We definitely need a little bit more space in here. Let's open it up a little bit. We'll see how we'll have to connect it later on when we get to the roof, of course. But for now, I think that's gonna work. We do want to fill in the floor, I think, because we probably will keep the floor there, and then we can kind of have a staircase somewhere to connect it back up with each other. Let's see. Just like this. I think that looks quite nice. I think that definitely does the trick quite well. Does what we want it to do. And then we can start filling in the rest of these walls, framing in another nice little window here. I think we're just going to go for the same wooden window that we like. Yeah, I think that looks quite nice. That means that we are quite far with this side. We just, of course, also need to worry about connecting it all up on the inside here. But potentially, if I have a staircase, nope, that's not gonna work out. You're gonna run into the other staircase, so might want to extend this a bit further, bring this out a little bit, and then yeah, that should be able to reach up to the other place and connect it all up very well. Let's see. Yeah, we can get some nice beams and supports around the staircase to make it feel more enclosed. We do need some small floors there because there's otherwise a gap between that and the wall. And just a bit of like fixing the gaps, but I think this should work as long as we can use the staircases. I guess that's the main thing here. If that works, we should be totally fine with it all. There we go. I think that is quite nice. Yeah, I think that works. I really love this system where you can do so much with the beams and stuff, but just combining them in different ways. But yeah, I think that's going to provide us with a nice little staircase up to that top bit, which I guess, I mean, it could be a bedroom or whatever. Yeah, I think that looks quite nice. And then we can just kind of fill in the remaining parts of this wall, which is what we were doing in the first place when we got distracted by trying to fix up these gaps. Maybe it's easier to go and fix this from below. I'm gonna have to clear out this gap so that I can actually fit through it. And I'm gonna have to frame a doorway here. I think that we should be able to do all that. So if we have this, that should work. And then we probably want to just have a few of these walls as well, so that it is an actual entrance like this, and we can have some beams to kind of frame a doorway out of wood, and then some bigger ones at the top there. You could expand it. Nah, probably not. There we go. It's quite a narrow staircase, but it works. I might change it later if I don't like it, but for now I think it works. So we're just gonna give it some supports, and then yeah, go on with the rest of the build, of course. So for now, let's just fill in these railings, get those all the way down and up to the top. There we go. That should work. give us some nice access to all the different layers of the build so far. Let's see. Then we might as well also frame up this entrance here. And I guess the top of that is going to be different again, because that's probably going to be the wood layer, what we get into next. But for now, that means that we at least have the main structure in place here. Do I want to have those beams? Oh, they don't match up quite nicely. So maybe we'll just leave out the beams there. Maybe just leave it as is. At least kind of start framing up this doorway, because... well, we do know that this is going to be a door frame because you'll have to reach that room. So I think that works. And then we can go back to working on the walls here that we were working on. So yeah, if we add in a few of those diagonals again, we can shape up the final wall for this layer to give even more shape to this whole building. And yeah, we should... get that done quite easily. Probably a window there, and then we can have another window here. So yeah, we can have 2 windows. I think that feels fair for this layer. That means we can have another beam here, and we can just work in the rest of these supports. So framing up the windows, and then the wall here in the middle is just going to be quite simple with a few of these diagonals, I think. Let's fill in the walls themselves. Middle part quite easy. Then we need the smaller ones over here, so that we can make our 2 window frames for the side of the building. And then once we get those in, we should have a pretty nice layer here. There we go. That feels quite complete. I like those windows. I think I might want to do that at both sides, just to change it up. I quite like that new window. And yeah, and we just add a different material that I haven't really used in a little town so far. So I think that's going to be a nice little feature. This blacksmith has earned enough money to get himself 2 fancy windows, which I think is pretty nice. So we're just gonna add this in. I really don't know which way it's supposed to go, which way, but I don't think it matters a lot with these windows. They seem pretty equal to me. Okay, let's finish up these stairs with a few more of these supportive beams, because we also want to have them go across the bottom side of our staircases, just so that it looks like everything is properly being supported and held together. So yeah, I think that works for a little staircase. Oh, we forgot one wall here, so let's quickly add that in. And yeah, we have one wall. We can have another layer. I think we're gonna extend it here on the top, just as we did before. And then the same thing on the other side, of course. Extend these so that we can just have a slight extra layer for the building once we build it all up. Do I want to... yeah, let's make the end of the wall here first. So let's use the normal walls all the way across. Then we should be able to start shaping up the rest of it in a little bit. If I add those quarters in place, some more walls there, and then we just kind of bring it all up to the top. I don't know if this is the most efficient way. I feel like I could have saved on a few structures here, but at least we're getting in the shape right, if it will let me at least. There we go. So yeah, again, pretty big steep wall here for the final bit of the building. So this is definitely going to be a tall building, probably our tallest building yet, except for the watchtower. But I think that's going to make for a really nice town line. Oh, don't want to go too far because it's all going to come raining down. There we go. Oh, we're just gonna circle this in, and Just want to save on some of these. Oh, there we go. We lost it. I think it would be nice to maybe have like a bigger window here if we can manage to fit one in. And then we should have plenty of room here because this is a pretty tall layer, so this would be pretty good. All the way up to the top. And yeah, these big windows I think are going to be quite nice because they're quite nice and tall. Give us some nice views of our surroundings, and we haven't used those yet. So again, some new nice windows to blend in to our building. Let's fill in the rest of that wall. Yeah, I think that works. Gives us a lot of building to do still, of course, because it's a steep wall here that we're gonna have to connect up to the rest of the building, tie all together. But I think it's gonna look really nice by the end of it. So for now, let's start filling in this floor. I guess we need to leave a little bit of space around this entrance because otherwise we can't use that staircase anymore. That should be fine, hopefully. And then we can just fill in this entire layer to make it a little bit easier on ourselves. There we go. Just filling it all the way in. Oh, I've ran out of wood. There we go, filling in the last gaps. For now, let's just fill it all in. We'll figure out the stairs later on. And then we'll have a big window over here in the middle, of course. There we are. Oh, that's the wrong way. That's why I like to test my windows, so I know if I've placed them in the right position. There we go. Got a window, and then we just need to shape up the rest of the wall around it. Making sure that we get the whole shape in place. That should be a good start. And then we can start building up towards the top layer by layer. There we go. Let's get this up a little bit and then down the other side. And we should just be able to fill in the rest basically. So yeah, we can add in these walls and then again or slope ones. There we are. And then finally the top of the wall, bringing that together there. There we go. I think that is gonna be that wall. And then I guess it's time to start working on the roof, trying to connect these different layers and maybe add some interesting features at the same time. Yeah, I guess just kind of bring up these roofs. And then I think I want to have something going on this side. Potentially right here. Because I want to break up the roof in some spots, obviously, to just make it look a little bit nicer, look a little bit more interesting, rather than it just being one big roof with nothing going on. So I think if I add in these, that could be quite a nice little addition here, breaking up that side of the building, filling in those bits. There we go. And then bringing that outwards, and then we'll have to see how far that is going to go out. Oh, that means we need to fill in that gap, and I guess that means I probably should add a staircase. Or can I still? No, I can still get up here. There we go. So yeah, we want to fill in these corners so that we can still kind of connect them up with each other. Can I fill in that place there? There we go. That should be fine. Let's just meet us in the right places, making sure that we can get the corners to connect it all up. But yeah, I think that is gonna work out here. So we're just gonna make sure that we can have all of these roofs meet up in a nice way. There we go. I think that's gonna work. So if we then just fill in the rest of this wall, it should be relatively straightforward. There we go. Because of course one of the points of interest on this side is already the little side building, and then having the other bit I think is going to really help make this look really cool. Just need to figure out what we want to do with it exactly. If I extend these, so just bring it out a little bit, I think that's going to give me a little bit more room to play with. Let's have a bit more space to look at what we're doing here. Obviously we're going to want like a window here in the middle. We're going to have to raise up this part and also get some beams around the ceilings, I think. Because we're going to have to make a way to make this look all supported. And whilst we're at it, we might as well add all of the beams around the edges, of course. Let's remove that for now. Bring that across. I guess we can bring it across to the door and then continue it from the other side. There we are. Should look quite nice. And then let's do this back of the build as well, all the way across, just like this. Add in all of these beams to keep that structure consistent and make sure that we have all of the right supports everywhere. So yeah, we can also now fill in this wall that we kind of built before. Should be able to connect it all up now. And there we go. Just shaping around the door and the roof basically. There we are. That should do the trick for that side of the building. And then probably want to have some railings around here, of course, so you don't fall in back to the next layer. I don't think there's a way to get our staircase back up here in that same spot, because it's gonna get a bit difficult to make sure that you can go both ways. So I think this is gonna be the best option, because we do need to clear some space so you can actually get into that room. And then over here for this side, of course, we want to create something nice for our side addition. I think some kind of nice window and then just a little roof over it is enough to break up this side and make it look more interesting, more fun, and more unique. So for now, if I could just connect up these roofs, that should work. And honestly, this doesn't need much. It just needs to kind of break up the normal roof in a more interesting way. Okay, let's fill in these walls. There's two ways about this. I could just fill in the shape, or I could just kind of make this stick out from the side of the roof, and that might be the easier way. And I think we can make that work. Just creates like a little bit of a side nuke that we could use for something once we get some more decor. There we go, around the side so that we can frame in a window, which I think is gonna look lovely over here. And then of course we just need to fill in the top layers to finish this little addition. There we go. And rotate them around. There we are. And then what do I need? Well, I need a little window, but I think maybe using this window so it matches the bigger one might be the way to go. And then I also need some kind of staircase here, just to make sure that we can still run up and down to the top, which might be quite useful. And I'm probably going to want to add in all of the pillars and beams around it as well, to make sure that we have a nice looking staircase and a supported staircase. So let's start with these beams around the edges, and then of course adding in the pillars. Oh, there we go. And along the staircase too. There we are. And just filling in these missing pieces to make sure that the whole staircase looks nice and supported. There we are. That looks good. And then there's the final beams across the top here for this final one. Well, I can't really do that with a beam flush with the roof, so I'm gonna have to change that a bit. There we go. So for this side of the building, I think we're also gonna make an addition, but I think we're gonna do it slightly different than the other side. Again, create more interest, create more different shapes to, well, keep ourselves entertained and hopefully the building looking very cool at the same time. So I think if we raise these up as we've done, this should be fine. We can have then a little window in there. Again, let's use the same window just because the consistency for this layer. And with that, we should have a pretty good start here. Rotate that window around so it opens the right way. And then we just kind of need to blend these pieces together and make some hopefully nice looking roofs at the same time. Let's see. I don't really want to have an addition on the outside. Fallen down again, which isn't great. But yeah, if I add these slope walls just like so, I think that might line up with the main structures. Obviously, I'm going to have to change it a little bit. Oh, actually, this isn't quite lining up as I thought it would. But that is definitely right. So I'm going to have to change this up a little bit. Let's see. It just needs to be a little bit lower. Which, I mean, I guess all I need to do is lower this wall a little bit. If I just go from the window, that should be fine. So we can just fill in those gaps. Take out our roofs again. And then if we do this, now it should all line up without too many issues. And then of course we can, oh no, that's the wrong one. Can fill in the sides here too. There we go. Yeah, I think this makes the most sense, to be honest. That's going to get us some like proper ships and proper battle sides. So then if we add in some pillars around the corners, it's just going to look a bit nicer. There we go. And then the other side is going to be slightly problematic, but it does still line up with this staircase. So maybe we can make it work and make it all blend together in a nice way. There we go. Just following the shape here, but of course on this side we need to make sure that we can still use the staircase we have, because otherwise we're going to have to rearrange everything again. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, that allows us still to use the staircase down to the other layer, and then we can just fill in the rest of this side, which should work. And yeah, we have a nice little bit, and we can just hopefully connect up the roof, which should be fine if I've got enough materials for it, which I don't. Now I do. We can finish the roof, and I think I could make another addition here, but I don't want to go too crazy. It is just a blacksmith building, with obviously like his home above it. I suppose that's the story that we're telling here. But yeah, I don't think we need another addition. I think we got a pretty good thing going here. I'm definitely quite happy with the way it's looking so far. And we just need a few little things before we're done. But yeah, that's the roof. And then on the outside, we just want to add in these little bits for the overhang, of course, making it a little bit more interesting on the outside as well. Basically, the finishing touches to get the roof looking the best way possible. And there we go. And then on this side, we can do the exact same thing. Bringing those roofs along. Oh god, please let me... Oh, it's gonna let me if I've clicked the right place. And the other side is also going to look very nice with these pieces. Awesome. There we go. And then I guess that's kind of the main shape of the building. There's all sorts of little details we can add, like these little pillars around the beams. I think I'm going to just keep doing that because I quite like the aesthetic that offers. Yeah, just adds a bit of depth, which I'm a big fan of that. And I don't have any like big decorative pieces that I can hang on the wall any other way. So this is a good way to add some shape. There we go. And then support for the next layer at the same time is gonna work quite well. And then we can also have the supports on this layer too, of course, just making sure that this looks all very nicely supported and in a right way. I think I'm gonna use the pillars as a supportive base here, so we can kind of just go around the building, adding these in to add more supports and details around the side of the building. But as you can see, especially now in the sunlight, it's starting to really look quite nice, I think. So I'm very happy with the process so far. It's definitely going in the right direction. There we go. Yeah, if we add in these little pillars, it's gonna all look quite nice. And oh, I guess we can't even reach the top there. That's good. There we go. That is quite nice. And then finally, of course, we want to add some details around the windows because it can never hurt. And I guess we want to maybe do that on this side. It can be quite painful sometimes to get them to place, of course, we know this, but the extra depth this adds to the build, I think it's definitely worth doing because it just looks so nice. There we go. I think that gives a bit more interest to this little street that we're starting to form here. And then, of course, these ones at the bottom, we can also add in our roofs across the top. We could even add them over there, just like that. I think that, yeah, just adds, again, the depth is really what we want to look for and what we want to add. But yeah, I think that's working. There as well. Yeah, there we go. I think, oh, this corner is very cozy. I really like that corner. That's looking very good. And then the top bit here, we can place the roof at the same time. There we go. And then we can also add in a beam going across the top, of course, just as we did for the side building. I think it's just a nice bit of detail that gives us a bit more shape to the roof, I suppose. Just a little thing to play with. And I think it looks quite nice here. So why not also add it to the other bits? First of all, let's continue this as far as we can. And then, of course, we want to have it for this little small side addition just until the end, sticking out by 2. And then we want to have all supports, of course. There we go. That should do it. And then we can continue the beam all the way across the top to the end, stick it out by 2. And add in our supportive beam underneath, which should help tie it all together. There we go. That should help us finish the look of this major roof here. And there we go. We are Going to extend the workplace just a tiny bit, just to give ourselves a little bit more room to work with and to decorate in the future too. So there we go. That should give us something. I just want to have like kind of like a garden wall. Maybe one of these pieces could actually be very nice for that. There we go. If we start from that way, we can kind of blend in to the terrain, which I like, because I try to work with the terrain as much as we can over here. And then we just want to, well, place all the things down, create like a little entrance. But if we have the kiln right here, that should produce us some nice stuff. And then we have the furnace, the forge right next to it. There we are. I think it works. I think it looks quite good. Then the inside, I want to fix up my staircase, because it's a bit too narrow for my liking. It's a bit too crammed. It doesn't like feel very smooth when running up and down. So I think what I'm going to try and do is just change the shape of the staircase down here, and of course also the way you get into the top layer of the side building, making sure that that is all connected and looking nice. But we of course need to clear out a little bit of the existing staircase first, so that we have a bit more room to see what we're working with. So yeah, if I added some light, some of these places are quite dark otherwise, and I want to see what I'm working with, connecting all these stairs to all of these different rooms. There we go. And now I guess we just need to add in our staircase over here. See if that's going to work. So I'm going to make a little turn into the building there. I think that's going to work quite well. There we go. And we will have the next entrance maybe going up instead of down, because of course that's really restricting our movement. And if we would have just a staircase from here, I don't think that would be so bad. I think that would quite help. Awesome. And then if we connect up these, it should be fine. See, it didn't feel quite flush. So maybe we can improve that a little bit. And we can again add in our supports around the edges of the staircase. So that does mean you have to go all the way to the top, and then you can go into this side building, which I'm fine with, because if it's just a bedroom, that makes a lot of sense. Like, it's just the top layer, and then you have a little room to the side where you can go to sleep. Yeah, I think that is totally fine with me. Just connecting up all these railings, making sure that they all look nice and do what they need to do. So that works very well. Now we just need to fix the stairs down here. I guess we can fill in some of these gaps like so. And I'm just gonna have to turn. Well, I definitely need that part, because otherwise it's gonna be a bit too narrow still. But I should be able to just kind of fill in the railings. And I feel like we're pretty much there. It would be ready to go. And the decorations, I guess, it's going to be a whole other thing. I still need to unlock a lot of the decorations, which is making decorating the places a little bit more challenging, since I know I'm missing a few things. But yeah, for now, let's just worry about adding in these nice railings around the whole stairs to make sure that it all looks nice. But I do think this deck is going to be a lot more natural with the little twist in it. It's going to cut into this room a little bit, but I think that's fine. Again, it's a pretty big build already. Like, there's already a lot of room here. So I don't think we need to worry about things too much. And we just need to finish the railing. Add in these last pieces. There we go. And then we got some pretty nice looking stairs to get all over the different layers that this place has to offer. And we just need to add in these supportive beams on the front. And then some supportive beams here underneath this part of the building, making sure it is also supported. And we could even add in some of the beams going across the front to really make sure that it ties together with the rest of the builds that we have going on so far. And maybe we could have some of these little details at the very end. I think that would work quite well. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this tour, this build, and of course the how to build it yourself. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you've got any future suggestions for builds you'd like to see, additions for my town that I need to make, let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. For now, goodbye.